So there's a Simpsons episode where Homer becomes a celebrity killer and he ends up killing Prince in this episode. And I understand what most people would think. They would think, well, that's no big deal. He also kills Neil Armstrong and George Clooney in this episode. In other cartoons like Family Guy, they depict celebrity deaths and they make celebrity jokes. South Park does it a lot too. They make a lot of jokes with celebrities and this or that. But if you know Gematria and you understand what I am showing, you can totally tell that this episode was planned and put out for a certain reason on a certain day. And they even put in these certain characters, George Clooney and Neil Armstrong. They were also put in here to be killed for a reason. Not saying they're going to kill George Clooney, but it's all planned. YouTube, I talked about how they put a copyright strike on one of my old videos after I put out my video about the death of Prince. Why would they copyright strike my video from 515 days before after making a video about Prince? I showed all the numbers that are connected to it, a whole bunch of 165 and whatnot. I'll leave a link to that video. I'll leave a link to the follow-up video I did of that. I'll even leave a link of how to Gematria so you understand what I'm talking about. But this episode definitely came out on a certain day for a reason, and they killed all three of these people for a reason. And the reason why Neil Armstrong sticks out is because of the copyrighted video that YouTube did to me. After I made that video, I discovered that Neil Armstrong and Gematria equals 165. I had this in my notes previously, but also I've been talking about George Clooney a whole lot because of the new film Money Monster that's coming out on the 134th day of the year this year. Like I said, if you watch the previous videos that I'm going to put in the description, it'll make a little bit more sense. Anyway, this episode was the 424th episode of The Simpsons. And what happens is it's like a Halloween episode, and they break it down into 3 parts. The first one is about a robot takeover. The second one is Homer killing celebrities. And the third one's about Milhouse believing in the Great Pumpkin or whatever. It's kind of like a Charlie Brown joke. So, the episode was called Treehouse of Horror X1X, which is also 19. So it's the 19th rendition of Treehouse of Horror. Treehouse of Horror XX in Gematria equals 124, just like if you write out Simpsons in Gematria. Also, if you write out 124, it equals 104. This number I've seen a lot around the Golden State Warriors. I also found that it connects to the Cleveland Cavaliers, so if you write out 104, it equals 168, just like Queen Elizabeth II, just like Cleveland Cavaliers. But the reason that stands out is because Prince died on Queen Elizabeth's 90th birthday. Even Cavaliers in Gematria equals 90. Golden State Warriors equals 90. Who knows, but the Clippers, Blake Griffin, and Chris Paul just got hurt, so most likely the Golden State Warriors are going to play the Blazers. I haven't seen the Blazers won tonight, the Warriors won. So interesting, the Portland Trailblazers equals 90 as well. Also, this episode, if you write out Treehouse Horror 19, it equals 144, just a number that's usually associated around death, especially political death. If you write out just X1X or XIX, it equals 57. Prince died at the age of 57 on the 112th day. What's interesting, this episode came out on November 2nd, which is 11/2, a lot like 112. LeBron James also shot 9 of 19 on 11/2 this year against the Philadelphia 76ers. I've talked a whole lot about the There's been so much coding to Philadelphia the last couple years. It's in regards to Pope Francis's trip to the United States that began when he went to Cuba on 9/19, which is the 262nd day of the year. 26 weeks, 2 days later, Obama went to Cuba for the first time in 88 years that a president had went there. The last president that went there, his name in Gematria adds up to 88. Other stuff with that, but the reason that's why 9/19 is so significant. Also, it's the 262nd day of the year. Queen in Gematria equals 62, and the 26th the small way. Queen Elizabeth was born in 1926. The year she became queen, she turned 26 years old. She was coronated on 6/2, 62 years ago. It will be 63 on 6/2 this year, the day the NBA Finals begin. She even became queen on 2/6 of 1952. So lots of stuff in regards to this day and whatnot. On that game, the Cleveland Cavaliers won 107-100, a total score of 207. I talked about if you write out Cleveland Cavaliers win NBA Finals 2016, it equals 197. If you write out 207, it equals 197. LeBron in Jewish Gematria equals 197. Prince in Jewish Gematria equals 197. And I talked about how the Cleveland Cavaliers are connected to Prince Charles, who, if Queen Elizabeth II dies, he will become the new king, King Charles III. Charles in Gematria equals Jewish Gematria equals 207. So if you break it down, it equals 197. Also, they won with 107 points. King Charles in simple Gematria equals 107. So anyway, the whole thing starts off with a little thing where Homer's going to go in and vote for Obama, but this machine keeps making him vote for McCain every time he pushes it. And Homer says, wait a minute, this thing is rigged or whatever. And when he does that, the machine opens up on the bottom and it sucks him in and hurts him and then spits him out. But as he's getting sucked in, he says, wait, this doesn't happen in America. Well, maybe Ohio. And it just sticks out because the Cavs are from Cleveland, Ohio. The Republican National Convention this year that I've talked about, how I think is a day that maybe a super significant day. Maybe Donald Trump may be assassinated on this day or something like that. But it's in Cleveland, Ohio. It's at Quicken Loans Arena where the Cleveland Cavaliers play even. So just interesting, he says maybe Ohio. And, we're in an election year. Later in this first part, there's a robot takeover. And it reminds me a lot of when Draymond Green said, I am not a robot. In Gematria, I am not a robot equals 143, which I mentioned in the previous video. Interesting, I did not know this before, but in Jewish Gematria equals 513, just like the day that Money Monster is going to be coming out. So, wow. I am not a robot. That's the 134th day of the year. It equals 143. Draymond Green equals 143 in Gematria. My computer will load here. 143. I mentioned this day a whole lot. The 143rd day is 522. Steve Kerr came back on 122 for the Warriors' 44th game of the season. It was the same day that David Blatt, the coach of the Cavs, got fired. His birthday is the 143rd day of the year this year. He got fired 122 days before his birthday. Got fired on 122. That same day, the Golden State Warriors even scored 122 points on 122. Tons of other stuff with that, but Just wanted to point out the significance. And the reason it reminds me of the Draymond Green saying, "I am not a robot," the very next night, Olivia Munn made a joke about, at the Academy Awards, about the robot takeover, and she was talking about Terminator 3 or Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and she messed up the date and whatnot. And she just so happened to mention August 27th, which is normally the 239th day of the year. Right now we're in the 239th year of the United States. She said this on February 28th, which just so happened to be the 239th day of the 239th year of the United States. Also, this year, August 27th, will be the 240th day of the year in the 240th year of the United States. Also just so happens to be Barack Obama's 7th year, 7th month, and 7th day as being the president. Anyway, Academy Awards in Gematria equals 118. If you go from the day November 2nd when LeBron was 9 of 19, also November 2nd, the day the Simpsons episode came out, a span of 118 days. 118, also a super significant day. Interesting, today was also the 118th day of the year. I couldn't believe the Warriors only won tonight by 33. I really thought they were going to win by 34 because Steph Curry's not playing, so they started Sean Livingston, who is number 34, which really stands out because the Warriors defeated the Cavs on 1/18, January 18th. They won by 34 points. It was 34 games after LeBron James shot 9 of 23. LeBron James also shot 9 of 23 on February 5th, which is 118 days before the finals. So I really thought they were going to have 34, and then they only won with 33. Still super significant, but moving on here. Terminator 2 Judgment Day equals 113. Just like Autobots, just like Decepticons. Also in the very beginning of this little first section where Homer's going to go vote, they show a deal that says Election Day. Election Day equals 113. Just like green screen, mainstream, dishonest, Scottish equals 113, like Scottish Rite Freemasonry. Bava Kamad in the 113 in the Talmud even says a Jew can lie to a Gentile, which it would be a non-Jew. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, both equal 113. So super significant number. So in the second part is when Homer kills Prince. It all starts because he kills Krusty the Clown. He goes into the wood chipper, which just sticks out to me too because earlier in the year we had that bogus story of some kid on his first day of work and he fell into the wood chipper. In this story, maybe it's a real story, but when CNN reports it, they report stories only that fit the agenda of what they're trying to do. They report lots of unreal stories. They also report true stories that they just use to fit the agenda. They also code them with numbers and whatnot. But what sticks out to me the most is that this kid died. He's from North Carolina. We've seen a lot of North Carolina deaths and whatnot. Or not really necessarily deaths, but a lot of bad things associated with North Carolina this year. The bathroom law is a big deal in North Carolina. Michael Jordan owns the Charlotte Hornets. The Panthers were from North Carolina. Clemson was from South Carolina, still part of the Carolinas. Also, North Carolina lost in the basketball championship. There's just been lots of Carolina stuff. The Carolinas were named after King Charles I. A Cavalier is a follower of King Charles I in the English Civil War. But this kid's name's even Mason Scott Cox. So just think about that. I'm talking about the Freemasons coding these stories and whatnot. Then this kid, his name just so happens to be Mason. Truly makes you wonder. Also, I forgot to mention in that story, uh, I also forgot to mention in this story, when that kid falls in the wood chipper, it talks about how his co-workers are running around all crazy. Neither his co-workers, one of his co-workers or his boss, has a heart attack. What's interesting is when Krusty the Clown goes into the wood chipper, his heart doesn't get destroyed and it shoots out, and Homer starts giving that heart CPR. I mean, a pretty pointless scene or whatever. Just reminds me a lot of this article. Also, interesting in Gematria, Krusty equals 114, just like LeBron James. And also, YouTube, what I'm talking about, YouTube copyright struck my video, or they gave my video a copyright strike on 4/23, which is the 114th day of the year. So, super interesting. Just kind of following up on this my YouTube video that they gave a copyright strike because it seems really strange, and it's also connected to this episode and things I've been talking about in regards to the Cavaliers and the Warriors and whatnot. So anyway, they show him killing Prince, but they also show him killing George Clooney and Neil Armstrong. The reason that it's interesting with George Clooney is that I just mentioned the importance of the movie Money Monster that's coming out on 5/13, the 134th day of the year. They wanted me to see 165 in the YouTube strike on my video. They did it 165 days after my birthday. It was the video that I had put out was in regards to 22 Jump Street, 22 in Gematria equals 165. It came out on June 13th, which this year is the 165th day of the year. And I put the video out 165 days after the movie came out. So a lot of weird 165s. When I was looking through my notepad or whatever to find other 65s that I didn't realize were connected to anything, Neil Armstrong was one of them. And then somebody pointed out this Prince dying in the Simpsons deal, and it just so happens to connect to Neil Armstrong. I also noticed 22 Jump Street, it stars Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill. But in George Clooney's newest movie that just came out in February, it's called Hail Caesar, Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum are both in that movie as well. So, just pretty interesting. We've talked a lot about 44s as well. Julius Caesar died in the year 44 BC. Augustus, who avenged Caesar's death, and he was the first emperor of the Roman Empire. He was even born on 9/23, the special day that we've been talking about with Pope Francis. Pope Francis came to the United States on his 923rd day as Pope, went to the White House at 9/23 on 9/23. There was even the train wreck last year on May 12th that happened at 9:23 p.m. and it was in Philadelphia, which just so happens to be 134 days before Pope Francis went to the White House and whatnot. Then 66 days later, we had the movie Trainwreck that came out that stars LeBron James, who in Jewish Gematria equals 923. It came out 66 days after the Philadelphia train wreck. LeBron equals 66. In that movie, the opening scene is when Amy Schumer is 9 years old. The rest of the movie takes place 23 years later. So I'm just trying to show the significance of the 923 here. Also, George Clooney's full name in Gematria equals 112. Remember, Prince died on the 112th day of the year. In this movie, he plays Baird Whitlock, which equals 135, which May 13th, the day the Money Monster comes out, can also be written as 13/5. So it's the 134th day of the year. If you write out 135 and 134, they both equal 115. Steph Curry got hurt on 4/24, the 115th day of the year. The reason that stands out to me is because the Simpsons episode was episode 424. If you write out Steph Curry's real name, it equals 112. He even got hurt when the score was 56-56, a total score of 112. Andre Iguodala equals 112. He was the one who scored the 56 point with 4.4 left. So, connected to the 44. Steve Kerr came back on the 44th game. The Warriors were chasing the Lakers' 33-game win streak that happened 44 years ago when Jerry West, who wears number 44 and also equals 44 at Gematria, played on the team. The Warriors are in their 44th season in Golden State. They broke the Chicago Bulls' 44-game home game win streak. I mean, just tons of 44 around the Golden State Warriors. And also, remember, Prince was at the Warriors Thunder game. Thunder in Gematria also just so happens to equal 90, just like Golden State Warriors. Remember, Prince died on Queen Elizabeth's 90th birthday. But the game was on 3/3. If you go from 3/3 to the day Prince died, a span of 1 month, 18 days, a lot like the 118 that I've talked about. Also, Warriors equals 49, Revelation equals 49, Chicago Bulls equal 49. 4/9 this year was the 165th day of the NBA season. I know it's a lot to take in, so if you're new, I apologize. But it all seriously connects to everything that I've been talking about. Even Lupercalia, that begins on the 44th day of the year, it's an ancient Roman festival where they celebrate and sacrifice a wolf, but they also just celebrate death pretty much. The 49th Pope was the one who banned Lupercalia. Rome was actually founded by Romulus and Remus on 4/21. I mean, it's crazy. Julius Caesar came to power in 49 BC, just in regards to this Hail Caesar movie. I know in this movie, too, I just sort of watched it, the Hail Caesar movie. It's such a horrible movie, but one of the actors they even mention, like his character, came from Akron, Ohio. That's where Steph Curry is from or born, and that's where LeBron James is also from. Akron, Ohio. And I'll give it another. And I'll go back and find that clip, and I'll leave a little note in this video. I'll just leave a note telling you what character it is. For some reason, I didn't write it down. I watched it earlier this morning. Who knows? But also, 49 is a very interesting number in regards to the Queen once again. Her only sister was Princess Margaret. She died exactly 49 days before their mother died. And then they were both buried on 4/9. I know I have a video on this from a long time ago. There's other 49s that were involved. Them are the ones I just thought of off the top of my head. Also in regards to the Cavalier stuff and King Charles. King Charles I was executed in the year 49, 1649. So this movie also came out on 2/5/2016, which is 118 days before 6/2 when the NBA Finals began. It also just so happens to be the anniversary of Queen Elizabeth's coronation. It will be her 63rd anniversary of her coronation on 6/2 this year. The day this movie came out, also the same day LeBron James shot 9 of 23 for the second time this season. And I've made tons of videos on why 9 of 23 is significant. It rarely happens that people shoot 9 of 23. This film also set in the year 1951. Cleveland is all about the 51. I even talked about how Donald Trump is 15 years, 51 days older than Obama. Pope Francis turned 15 years old in the year 1951. Queen Victoria, who was previously the longest reigning British/English monarch of all time, who was surpassed by Queen Elizabeth II on 9/9 of 2015. She died exactly 51 years, 15 days before Queen Elizabeth became the queen. And then of course with the Cleveland stuff, Cleveland equals 51, LeBron James equals 51, Cleveland Cavs equals 51, Quicken Loans equals 51. Cleveland hasn't won a sports championship in 51 years. Another thing that really stuck out to me with the Neil Armstrong stuff then, Prince died at the age of 57. He died on a night of a full moon. Moon equals 57. Neil Armstrong was the first guy to walk on the moon. So interesting, Neil Armstrong would also die. You also had George Clooney in that movie Gravity. I know it's nothing to do with the moon, but it was just a really popular movie from a couple years ago. Just makes me think of space and the moon. But Clooney is in all kinds of crazy movies. I made a video decode on the Fantastic Mr. Fox a long time ago, and I talked about how it connects to Lupercalia, the Wolf Festival, and whatnot. I mean, just think about how werewolves come out on a full moon, wolves howl at the moon. The movie even came out exactly 6 years before the Paris attacks on 11/13 of 2009. Also interesting in regards to the Warriors and Steph Curry, they were playing Houston, or they just beat them tonight. But they're playing Houston, right? That's where flight control is. Houston, we have a problem and whatnot. I know that's Apollo 13, but still, it's in regards to Houston. Also, it became Johnson Space Center, named after LBJ, but it became that on 2/19 of 1973. Just sticks out a lot with the Warriors and their 73 wins. Also, 2/19 is the day they lost to the Portland Trailblazers, who I believe they're going to play in the next round. The 2/19 connects to Anderson Varejao and Amtrak's, also back-to-back championships, all kinds of stuff that I've mentioned. So, super interesting that it would be that on that day and whatnot. Neil Armstrong also, when he was the first man to walk on the moon, it was Apollo 11. That equals 134. Also, Apollo 11 was from 1969. There's been a ton of 69s this year. Lots of death around 69s. Donald Trump's 69 right now. Cleveland Cavaliers in Gematria equals 69. David Bowie died at the age of 69. Back to back equals 69 in Gematria. Just lots of 69 stuff. I also mentioned how Prince's death was connected to Vanity's death, and all the headlines were Prince protege dying and whatnot. Vanity was in the movie with Carl Weathers called Action Jackson. I've never even seen the movie, but Carl Weathers is Apollo Creed. So interesting, it's, Neil Armstrong on Apollo 11. There's something connected to Apollo Creed, who's from Philadelphia, by the way. I even showed how he was connected to earthquakes and the number 143. Also, he was Chubbs, and they say Grizzly Adams did have a beard, and Grizzly Adams died on January 15th, connecting to the 115 that I've been talking about with the Warriors. And, holy crap. Sorry, I just looked up at my TV, and the movie Gravity is literally on right now. Hold on, sorry. I wish I had my webcam on now. Gravity. And it's 1:34 in the morning. This is unbelievable. It's on FX channel 136 even. 136 June 16th, or June 13th. Holy cow. Just like, this is what I'm talking about. That's the magic that I'm talking about. Or whatever's going on. How in the world is my TV on the movie Gravity right now? Especially on channel 136, which is like June 13th. And I look and the time's even 1:34. Okay, I apologize, but that is amazing. The reason that The 115 is so significant around the Warriors, and I'm running out of time. I'll have to add another part, so whatever. So Grizzly Adams dies on January 15th. The Warriors lost their first game of the season on 12/12, which was 1 month, 15 days into the season. They also lost on 2/19 to the Blazers, which was the 115th day of the season. And then Steph Curry hurts his knee on the 115th day of the year or whatever. So that's why the 115 is significant. Also, Neil Armstrong died 3 years, 9 months, 23 days after the Simpsons episode aired. On the episode, Neil Armstrong dies from getting hit with a golf club in the head. Golf club equals 78. He was even 78 years old when the episode came out. Just interesting too, golf club at Jewish Gematria 308, just like Stefan. The moon landing also supposedly happened 46 years ago. 46 years, 9 months, 23 days before the film Money Monster comes out on the 134th day of the year. Moon landing even equals 118 in Gematria. So who knows? This 118 I keep seeing a lot around the Warriors and the Cavs. Also on the episode, this guy starts punching this guy. All of the celebrities get mad because they got murdered, and they leave heaven to get their revenge. This guy starts getting punched, and he says, "Rip Taylor, you aren't even dead." And then this guy, Rip Taylor, says, "Someone better go check his apartment." Just kind of a weird scene that they throw in Rip Taylor. Rip Taylor, 134 at Gematria. At the very end, Homer gets shot in the head and he goes to heaven and he locks all the other celebrities out. And then they portray Abe Lincoln as being gay and like gonna go play poker with Homer, and he even grabs his butt and whatnot. Interesting, gay Lincoln equals 112 in Gematria, just like George Clooney's full name. Also in regards to Houston, Houston equals 112. Like I said, Steph Curry's real name, full name adds up to 112. Prince died on the 112th day of the year. I also need to rewatch Batman and Robin, and also the old Batman with Jack Nicholson. Who's the Joker? Jack Nicholson equals 134. But Prince wrote the soundtrack for that first original Batman. George Clooney plays Batman in Batman and Robin. Batman equals 51, just like all the other 51s I've talked about. The final part of the episode, I didn't pay that much attention to. They basically brought back the great pumpkin to life or whatever. Then they had to bring back a great turkey. I didn't really notice a whole lot. Not saying it wasn't there. I just didn't watch it as in-depth as I wanted to. I had some other things going on and I couldn't watch it. Plus, I don't know why. I'm not a fan of The Simpsons whatsoever. I just can't get into it. It's just not me. Some other extra info that I thought of. So, I mean, there's definitely a moon theme in regards to Neil Armstrong and whatever. But also, Steph Curry's first ever NBA game was against Houston. They lost 107 to 108. The score that totals up to 215. He got hurt on 4/24 with a total score of 215. 215 adds up to that 197, just like Prince in Jewish Gematria, just like LeBron in Jewish Gematria, just like the 207 that I was talking about before. I also wrote this in here wrong. Steph Curry shot 9 of 19 on January 30th, and it was against the Philadelphia 76ers. If you include the end date, it would be 134 days. But it's actually only 133 days. But 131 to 6/13, the 165th day of the year this year, is a span of 134 days. And the reason the Knicks game is so interesting is because The Warriors became 44-4 after they won that game. And I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a Wendy's commercial where they do the 4 for 4 and they put the 4-4-4 in the background. Wendy's equals 90 in Gematria, just like Golden State Warriors, just like Portland Trailblazers, just like Cavaliers, just like Thunder. So I don't know. There's, something super significant about the 90. Also in regards to the 22 Jump Street from the video, the day Prince died and Queen Elizabeth's birthday to 5/13, the day that Money Monster comes out, the 134th day of the year, it's a span of 22 days. So this day is 22 days later. I don't know. This day just keeps popping up. I don't know what's going to happen on that day, or if it's just coding to that movie that has a whole lot of significant things in it. But I keep being shown this day a whole lot. Today, also the 118th day of the year. Clooney's birthday just so happens to be on 5/6. All the 56 stuff that I've mentioned over and over and over. I mean, pretty interesting. Maestro even pointed out the tribute to Prince George. I've been mentioning how there's something special to Charlotte. King George III was married to Queen Charlotte. George equals 154 in Jewish Gematria. Prince supposedly was up for 154 hours before dying. George also equals 57, like the age that Prince died. So who knows, I'm just trying to figure out what this 165 is all about. Why YouTube would copyright strike my video. What exactly are they trying to show me? It's super interesting that everything that I've talked about recently, though, actually coincides with this Simpsons episode. There's just something super significant about it, and that's what I'm talking about. If you understand what I'm talking about, and you learn Gematria, and you learn how it's coded to these things, you'll start to see it as well. Some other interesting 134s, just to leave it off here. City of Light, which is Paris. We had the Paris attacks, equals 134. Michael Jackson Video Vanguard 134. That's in regards to Kanye West, who also is connected to a lot of this. Kanye West 51, Taylor Swift 51. Lots of other stuff with that. Taylor Swift equals 168 the big way. Beyonce Knowles equals 168 the big way. Taylor Swift or Kanye got up on stage and whatever, said Beyonce had the greatest album ever. A lot more to that as well. Kanye even sung the Queen song at Glastonbury last year on 6/27, the day after gay marriage was legalized. Freddie Mercury, by the way, equals 154 as well. They just had an article about Freddie Mercury on CNN and his voice and whatnot. But anyway, moving on. San Bernardino equals 134. 84 equals 134. Obama was born on 8/4. Obama in Jewish Gematria equals 84. Pope Francis, the first Jesuit pope. Jesuit equals 84. United States of America equals 84. Also 31 equals 134. 31 super significant in regards to at least sports, I noticed. It's been a super positive or good number. It's also connected to both the Cavaliers and the Warriors this year, so interesting. Also just had the Clippers with Griffin and also Chris Paul getting hurt. And then you had Donald Sterling back in the news. This is the guy who actually owns the Clippers now. His name equals 134. So the odds that he'd be back in the news. Jack Nicholson equals 134. Like I said, Luke Walton, 134, who was the coach for the Warriors for 43 games. Also connected to the Lakers. I've talked about how Kobe Bryant is connected to all of this as well. He even tore his Achilles against the Warriors. Age 34, he scored 34 points, got the Lakers their 43rd win. Came back 34 weeks later. Tons of other stuff with that as well. Transgendered 134. We've had a lot of that bathroom law going around. Dave Henderson 134, which is significant because he was on the 1986 Red Sox team that lost to the New York Mets, and the New York Mets were in the World Series this year and whatnot. But anyway, he died at the age of 57, 57 days after the World Series. World Series in Gematria equals 57. Just want to point out, too, Obama is the 57th term president. So if they're going to kill him, or if this 57 is bad, definitely seems fitting. 57 also a backwards way to get to the word championship. King Charles III equals 134. Prime number equals 134. The 134th prime number, 757. March 11th equals 134. Super interesting. I've talked a lot about the Warriors and the Portland game and how it ties into Anderson Varejao, who he's wearing number 18 for the Warriors. He was dropped by Portland. The Warriors picked him up on 222. Amtrak equals 222. He wears number 18. They played the Blazers 18 days later on 3/11. Remember the other night Curry got hurt after playing 18 minutes? There was a blackout at the Spurs game that lasted 18 minutes. Lots of interesting stuff. Jeffrey Teague, 134. Remember, he shot 9 of 23 this year against the Cleveland Cavaliers. A lot more to it than that, but just shortening it up here. Kanye's mic was turned off. That was a big story. Mic turned off, 134. Also, interesting that The Simpsons debuted on Pope Francis's 53rd birthday, December 17th, 1989. So who knows? I know this video is super long, but I'm telling you, there's some crazy stuff going on, especially when I'm sitting here. I have no idea how the movie Gravity is on. I was watching basketball. The movie's not even recording. I don't remember if I turned the channel or not, But obviously, I had to have changed the channel. And if I didn't, that's even crazier. But for me to look up and notice that the movie Gravity is on is absolutely amazing, especially at the time that I checked. I mean, come on, that is absolutely craziness. And that's what I'm talking about. There's something crazy going on. But who knows, I'm going to leave it at that. I want to talk about, whatever. I'm going to talk about the blackout game and whatnot in a different video. I probably should have did that before because it might have made this video make a little bit more sense. But whatever, like I said, leave it at that. We'll see what crazy stuff happens from now until whatever, Have a good one.